Thank you for joining us for today's presentation on Coaching for Life, presented by the Messiah College Business Alumni Association. The following presentation was originally recorded on April 30th, 2014. Our speaker today is Christine Olsen. Christine is the owner of SMD Marketing and Coaching Services, a unique firm focused on combining pragmatic marketing solutions and personal coaching. Enjoy the presentation and visit us online at www.messiahbusiness.com.
Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. So today I'm here to talk to you about overcoming obstacles and embracing your future. I'd like to take you on a journey today. On the table, there's a blue piece of paper. I'd like you to work through this process with me. It may be new to some of you to work in this kind of realm. I see some students in the room. You may be more familiar with working through a worksheet like this. What we're going to do today is I want to take you each individually on a journey of looking at your goals that you may have in your life, establishing some goals, finding out some obstacles that you may have. And I would also like you to work through how you can make these goals not only a goal, but reality in your life. When people ask me what I do, I have a multifaceted life. I have a few different companies. One is an organizational and home redevelopment company. I also have I had an opportunity a number of years ago to move over to marketing and become an independent marketing consultant and help people market their products, their services, their companies, and their desires. Shortly after that, I kind of transitioned into training people how to do it for themselves. And one day my girlfriend said to me, "Oh, I'm a health and wellness coach." And I said, "What is that?" And she says, "Well, I train people and I teach them and I coach them through their goals. I don't really do it for them, but I help them through this process." I thought, wow. She says, "You know, Christine, you have gifts and talents that God gave you that you're not using. And individually, people have these goals." And she says, "You work with so many people and you work so individually with them. I think you should look into what it's about." So I took it upon myself to do a little research. I used her as a little bit of a mentor. And I found that there was this niche that they call life coaching, which is a broad spectrum of coaches. It goes from everything from professional coaching to personal coaching. But it's funny because life coaching or coaching is not real big on the East Coast yet. This has been a tried and true practice in the West, and people have used coaches for many years. We've all heard of corporate coaching, which is a little bit different. But here, there's still this connotation of what is a life coach? And I often get asked that question, and I see this blank stare on their face. And I wonder sometimes if they're thinking, is this life coaching thing a whole bunch of quacks? Well, for your sake, I hope not, and I hope I'm here actually to actually give you something, a tool and a technique to work through your goals. So because coaching is not limited to one particular goal or certification process, coaches are trained in a variety of things. And the ultimate goal is to teach you to take your goals and go through an adaptive change through listening and mentoring, sometimes mentoring, take you through an adaptive change in your life to accomplish the goals and desires that you have. Goals are not limited. They can be big or small. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. Goals can be personal and professional. So you hear about executive coaches. That's just someone who specializes in helping executives. You may hear of a health and fitness coach. That's somebody who helps you with those particular goals. Those are coaches that we all have been trained in similar ways, but have found a specialty that they have as a niche. I'm going to be talking about coaching today as the general spectrum of coaching, not just one particular variety. People also seek out life coaches if they've had some transition in their life or going through something that they just feel that that's not working for them. Sometimes the birth of a baby can be very life-changing for someone. I know when I had my children, I transitioned from being an executive to being at home. I wish I knew that there was a life coach out there that could have sat with me and said, "Hey, what do you want to do besides, what does your life look like as a mom?" And, ask me those questions so I could formulate, how do I become an executive and now become a stay-at-home mom and not lose my identity, which I did, and it took me a while to get back. So a birth of a baby, a change of a job, financial crisis, marital status change, a death of a pet or a loved one, these are some personal reasons why people come and seek out a coach. But there are those professional reasons, there's financial reasons. My friend Laura Parker, she's a speaker, she's the one who mentored me, is author, life coach of All Things Healthy. She said that having a coach is like having a navigational system in your car. You will get to your destination, we hope, but with a coach in place, helping you through your adaptive changes and listening and guiding and holding you accountable, you're more likely to stay on your journey without veering off and losing sight of where you're headed. In the late 80s, we heard a rise of this thing called a work and life balance. It's where we didn't feel guilty for being at work and leaving our families at home, but we also didn't feel guilty when we were at home participating with our families, leaving work. Some of you are too young to even remember a life without a work-life balance, but the 80s, it was much simpler. Now we have a life that looks like this. We have our business careers, we're juggling 10,000 things, we have our faith, family and friends, everybody is pulling us in so many directions. This can get overwhelming. How many of you have a life that looks like that? I know I do. Although there are literally dozens of areas of coaching, they all basically draw on a certain number of tools from psychology, sociology, career development, and career counseling and adult development. They all have the aim of helping people identify and achieve their individual goals. With a good coach in place, maybe you won't feel like you're juggling as much. Today we'll be referring to the general practice of coaching, like I said, but there's one subset that I quickly mentioned, that's corporate coaching. Corporate coaching is a little bit different because that's where a coach comes into a workplace or department and evaluates what the group is doing. They offer suggestions, help with a plan, and motivate that team. That's a little bit different than the coaching I'm talking today because I'm talking about personal and professional goals, which are more individually oriented. And those are the ones that we're going to be looking at today. Life coaching is unlike therapy. A coach does not deal with your past, delve into your life, or look for therapeutic solutions to your future. Instead, they take you through this process of adaptive change. They need to be very active listeners. I'm taking a little bit of a different role today, standing up here and talking, because I'm usually more of a listener. So you have to give me a little bit of a leeway there. But in coaching, you're going to look at self-awareness, technical and adaptive changes, and ultimately find cohesiveness in your life. There are many reasons why people avoid advancing in life. They may feel lost or confused, perplexed, disoriented. Some people don't know how to set goals. Some people know how to set goals, but they're not quite sure how to achieve them. This can be very difficult. The one thing that I hear more than anything else is that people feel stuck. And I say stuck. They say, I just can't figure out the next step. Well, my question for them is, how are you stuck? What are you doing? Is it working? What's not working? What is this thing that you're stuck? I've had clients with organizational issues, professional development goals. I've even had people who have come to me and said, Christine, my goal to coming to you today is I want a happier life. You think, oh my goodness, I have this person's happiness in my hands and I need to train them how to be happy. It is possible because a goal is just a journey. A goal is just something we desire and we want to make happen in our life, and those things can happen. Each of these clients that I've had have always one thing in common, and that is that they can't stay focused and feel that and have somebody that is holding them accountable for their goals. In my life and many of those that I have coached, there are some crippling reasons why they don't advance in life and why I didn't advance in life. I like to refer to this as the fog. How often do you feel that an aspect or all of your life looks like this, that we're on a journey, but it feels clouded. We can't quite see exactly where we're headed. This is the one thing that I have heard more than anything that people can relate to. This flop, I hope to take you on a journey through that worksheet on your paper to start lifting this fog in one or two of your goals, or perhaps something even more substantial in your life. People say they feel overwhelmed by change that is necessary to lift this fog. It's actually quite simple. The most important thing is a plan and accountability. Keep in mind that coaching relies on that active listening component, and it's a process of adaptive change. This is not something that's going to happen in a day, but I'm hoping that today you will take that blue piece of paper home and decide maybe for yourself if a coach would be beneficial, or at least you'll be aware of the process that a coach would maybe take you. On the paper in front of you at the top, there's a list of a place where you could write down 3 goals in your life. If you would please take the time to do that, this seminar will work a lot better for you. They can be personal or professional, health or fitness related. They could even be aspirations that you have. I don't want you to think of a goal as too big or too small. If you can't think of anything, maybe answer this. If I could do anything without any obstacles in my way, I would do. Maybe it's take a trip. Maybe it's as small as write a will this year. These are all important things to write down as goals. I do want you to know that we're not going to be sharing these around our table. This is just for your own personal. Some of these things when we're working with our goal are very personal. People have weight loss goals. They have financial crisis goals. They have relational goals. So I just want you to know that this is just for you, and I want you to enjoy this process. I know that this process of setting goals this specifically and actually writing them down may be new for some of you, but I want you to have something in mind when we talk about this fog, something that we're having a problem working through. And the reason I asked you to write down 3 things is because some of them are going to be taken out over a couple of reasons, and you'll see that for a minute. Okay. How many of you are willing to admit that at least one of those things on the paper you have had for the last 3 months as a goal? How about 6 months? How about a year? How about 5 years? How about 10? I can say 10 too. That's one of the things that people find. They set a goal and they never achieve it. One of the goals that I have that I'm committing to all of you today is that I need to lift this fog is I have been working on writing a book. I have to stop working on writing the book and I have to accomplish writing the book. So I'm committing that to you, and that's my goal, and I will share it, but again, you won't be sharing yours. So what exactly is this fog that we encounter? FOG are 3 letters that I use for an acronym. The first one is fear. Fear is a critical factor that holds people back, either conscious or unconscious. We have fears both in achieving our goals and a fear of not achieving our goals. The definition of fear is an unpleasant emotion caused by being aware of danger, the feeling of being afraid. Fear can be real or perceived. I think most of us, when we look at our personal and professional goals, they're probably not real danger. Most of them are probably perceived fear. I want you to think about that for a moment. Of course, if your goal is to go skydiving, you may have fear. There is danger involved. If you want to rock climb or climb the Himalayas, you may have reason to fear. But most of us, when we want to become a millionaire, write a will, have a baby, get married, all of these things are not to be feared. Instead, this fear is false evidence appearing, false evidence appearing real. I would like you to think about that for a second. False evidence that appears real, meaning that there's no real danger in that fear. Just like public speaking, a lot of people fear, more people fear public speaking than they do their own death. There's been a study done, and that's really scary. And I have to say, I was a little nervous getting up here today. And my father was a pastor, and he was nervous every time he gave a sermon. But what is there to fear? Our fear is false evidence appearing real because there's no real danger involved. It's the what ifs. What if I try and I fail? What if I embarrass myself? What if I don't try and then I can't fail? What if I don't live up to my expectations of myself? What if I don't live up to the expectations of others? This is really doubt. Doubt in ourself. And when you think about fear as doubt in ourself, it gives you a new perspective of why we're not accomplishing our goals. Fear is only perceived. There's no real substance to fear. There's fear and danger, but there's no real fear. What if I leave my job to start my own company and I can't financially make it? That's a question that I had. I wanted to stay at home with my children, and I have 5, and I thought, financially, that will never be a reality. But it can be a reality when you stop thinking, what if, what will happen, and start putting in place real reasons why these are false evidence appearing real. You will be able to face these goals that you have. I would like you to analyze the goals that you did write down. How many of them are rooted in false evidence appearing real? No matter how big or minuscule our goals are, they give us a purpose in our life. That's pretty amazing. Our goals give us a purpose in our life. Of course, other things give us purpose, but our goals give us a reason to keep pursuing a better tomorrow. On your paper, as pertaining to the goals that you've chosen, list maybe 1 or 2 reasons that you think fear has stopped you. And is it a real fear, or is it false evidence appearing real? When you're writing, think about this. God speaks a lot in Scripture about fear. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be afraid, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. He tells us not to fear. Now, if you were zipping down this line, there would be a reason to fear, but it's still false evidence appearing real. If you're tethered or you're in a gondola, you're going to be okay. There's always accidents, yes. But God goes on and says in 2 Timothy, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. He does not want us to root our lives in fear. Instead, our fear is really obligation and guilt. Obligations imposed by others and guilt within ourselves. We're going to talk about that more. So our O is obligation. Obligations are imposed expectations that hold us responsible to someone else or something outside of your own being. We think that they're within ourselves, but they're really imposed by others. As Christians, we may look at our lives and use the Christian perspective. And you may say, well, I have a covenant relationship with God. Absolutely. That's an obligation that we want to hold ourselves to the highest standard. Then there's suggestion in the Bible that we have a covenant relationship in our marriage. Absolutely, a marriage is a partnership. But all obligations beyond that are being impositions from other people. Even our children need to be central to our hearts, but not the center of our lives. We need to start prioritizing these obligations that others impose on us. Transformation away from obligation is a journey. It is not something that's easy. It's something that needs, at times, a coach to help you navigate and mitigate the changes in relationships. Especially for some of you that are younger in the audience that have parents and you're still kind of under their care. There's a big transformation as you move on to adulthood and taking on your own life. I want you to think about, for the young people in the room, how those obligations of your parents or expectations of your parents may shape what you're going to do in the next 5 years. How they shape what is on your paper. People often mean well when they give their opinion, but they have a way of becoming obligations, therefore creating obstacle in achieving our goals. I heard, how are you going to provide for your family if you leave this job? My boss said that. I was like, as I was trying to leave my pharmaceutical position, that's what she said. How are you going to provide for your family? You have 5 kids. You need to take care of your failing parents. I've had my sister say that to me. You live closest, you take care of mom and dad. That is an obligation I have in my life. Do I take it on? Sometimes, but sometimes I just have to learn how to say no. And I need to take that obligation off my plate and persevere on my own. Obligation is a key place where coaching can guide you and help you to find your way through managing these obligations others impose. Who imposes these obligations on you? Your parents? Your boss? Your family? Your children? It's very important to understand where our obligations come from. Not all obligations are completely wrong, but I want to challenge you to analyze these obligations in your life. I want you to look at them and decide, are these opportunities for growth because I'm being hindered by somebody else's expectations? We have a set of obligations that help us. Can we change our obligations and maximize our potential? Write down on your paper a few obligations or people who impose those obligations that may be stopping you from achieving your goals. I'm going to give you a second to think about that. Besides fear and managing these obligations, these all help us start to lift the fog. But there's one area that we still haven't talked about, and I told you that that's guilt. Now, I'm not talking guilt, the verb, that we did something wrong and we hurt somebody in our past and the wrongdoings of remorsefulness. I'm talking about the noun of guilt. The noun of guilt is worry, anxiety. These are the ways that we self-impose obligations on ourselves. I found that with my clients, guilt is the continuous thing that always prevents them from continuing on their journey to achieving their goals. What if I start my own company and I can't provide for my family? That's scary. What if I want to take off a year to travel after I graduate from college? What will happen to those loans that I have? What if I want to take a vacation? Who's going to work on that project at work? We all have these things in our mind that are self-inflicted obligations. You can see that these guilts are personal obligations we have inflicted not only upon ourselves, but they create worry and anxiety within our beings. Instead of guilt, we need to guide our minds towards wisdom. Instead, set a path to overcome feeling guilt that hold us captive and create failure. Dr. Susan Krauss Whitburn, in an article of Fulfillment at Any Age, says that guilt is first and foremost an emotion, like fear, that we talked about earlier. According to her, in the cognitive view, if you change your thoughts, you can change your emotion. Think about that. If we can change the guilt that we have in our minds, we can get over the emotion that comes along with it. Once you realize that you can readjust your mental set, you can more realistically figure out the role in accomplishing our goals and desires. Guilt is a useless feeling. It's never enough to make you change direction, only to render you useless. This is why we need to change our mindset. The Bible speaks a lot about guilt as well. An anxious heart weighs a man down, Proverbs 12:25. 1 Peter 5:7, cast your anxiety on him, for he cares for you. Matthew 6:27, can all of your worries add but a single moment to your life? God does not want us to be rooted in guilt. He does not want us to be rooted in anxiety and fear. He wants us to overcome those things and live life full to our fullest potential. My personal favorite is Matthew 6:34. Don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow it brings its own worries, but today provides enough worries of its own. I mean, how great is that? We get up in the morning and it's raining and we have a flat tire and we were trying to get to this Messiah breakfast, and each day comes with minor worries that we need to pursue. Why should we carry these self-inflicted obligations with us that create guilt? So I urge you to think about, what inner voices are you listening to? Do you have opportunities to achieve your goals that you're not because of fear, obligation, and guilt? What inner voice is speaking to you, creating the false evidence that's appearing real? What exterior voices are speaking to you, imposing obligation? We need to constantly rehearse in our minds how achieving our goals will positively affect our life. We need to overcome this fog and start shaping a life and achieving our goals. So now what? Great. Now you told me all about fear, obligation, guilt, and how they're holding me down and how I need to get over this all. I'm hoping that in recognizing your fear, obligation, and guilt, you will have an opportunity to start thinking about things that are weighing you down and creating that fog. But I also want to take you on a journey this morning to look at those goals, develop a plan that maybe a coach could help you through. So now what? That's a good question. What do we do with our goals? My favorite motivator and mentor, John Assaraf of Praxis Now, the Neuroscience of Maximum Achievement, has a process that I have found useful in my own life and with many, many of my clients. I have tweaked it a little bit to how it relates to this fog. But in a seminar called How to Overcome Fear of Failure and the Fear of Success, he presented this material that I'm going to present with you today. And like I said, I had to tweak it a little bit to fit exactly this fog scenario. But hopefully you will see your goals more clearly, and this will help you navigate your fog-filled journey. Oh, I thought something was in the way all of a sudden. That's a mountain that people are climbing. No matter how big or minuscule your goals are, they give you a sense of purpose. I had said that earlier. When we look at our goals, ask yourself, is this important enough to you? Not to me, not to anybody in the room, but is this important enough for you today to commit to one of those goals on that sheet? Are you willing to do what it takes to overcome what is necessary to lift that fog when you are no longer able to find blame in your circumstances, the economy, your environment, fear, obligation, and guilt? You will achieve your goals. Please find one thing on that list that you would like to work through this process. Again, it could be as simple, if you haven't written down goals, it could be writing your will, saving for a vacation. It doesn't need to be something big, but I urge you to at least write down this process so you have the opportunity to take this home and apply it to something maybe bigger. First is goals. Most people know what goals are. Some people don't even know how to set a goal because they think it needs to be this grandiose thing. But it can be minuscule, and that's what's important, is no matter what your goal is, that you find importance. But let's start on a way to achieving our goal. You have to focus your brain on exactly what this goal is going to look like to you. I urge you to write that goal at the top of your pyramid. We're going to work through this process to help you see that goal more clearly. To the right of that, I would like you to write, what will this goal precisely look like? I want to write a book. What will my book look like? I know it's going to be X number of pages, and I know it's going to be done by this time. But what will the goal look like? What if you have a financial goal? What is that financial goal? I want to be financially successful. I hear that. Well, what does that look like? Is it $30,000? Is it $1 million? Is it $5 million? You need to know what your goal will look like in order to achieve it. You need to be specific. Goals that are spiritual, relational, or career-oriented, what kind of legacy will you leave behind with this goal? So if it's financial, we may be leaving a legacy for our kids, but always constantly think about what the ultimate purpose of the goal is and what it will specifically look like. We have to set some goals beyond our comfort zone. We need goals that we won't become complacent with. Complacent goals make us think, oh, we'll start that tomorrow. That's my favorite. I want to exercise tomorrow. I'm too busy to exercise today. That's my biggest one. I have all these fitness goals, and I always put that off because you know what? To me, it's just not big enough. I need to make that a big priority in order to change my life to meet that goal. Trust that if God brings you to it, He will bring you through it. What if that goal that you have on your paper, just one of them, is not your bright idea, but God put it on your heart to achieve? That's a pretty big reason why you would want to accomplish that goal. So now, maybe it's not your goal, but maybe it's God's desire for your life. No matter how big or how small, what is important is that you find it important to you. And that if they're small goals, you learn to prioritize. I want to work out every day. I want to become more fit, but it's not a high priority to me. I have other goals that are bigger priorities, and they take precedence. So we can't meet every one of our goals all at the same time. But you have to be willing to accept within yourself the priority of your goal and how you're going to work through that. The next part I like to call the blueprint. The blueprint is how are you going to achieve these goals? This is the easiest part, and this is the funnest part. Your STP is your strategy, your tactics, and your process. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But this is where you specifically put your plan into place. Strategies help you achieve your goal. They're your plan. What is your plan in achieving your goal? The process, what system is needed? Tactics, I forgot that. Tactics is how are we going to accomplish our goal? What are the tools that we need? And the process, what system is needed to achieve this goal? What is our timeline? I'm going to give you an example. Say you want to increase your business 30% for those of you in the corporate world, or I want to have 30% more clients. So how do I achieve that? Well, in order to do that, I need to specifically figure out the number of clients I need to make that goal. So that would be my strategy. I need X number of new clients. My tool would be, I am committing to calling 20 new people a day until I meet that number. And the process will be in what amount of time. So if I want to increase my business by 30%, well, great. Is that going to take me 3 months, 6 months, a year, 5 years? If I don't know what my timeline is, how am I going to accomplish that? There goes my fitness goal, as long as I do it by the time I'm 50, right? So I keep pushing it off because my timeline, I have not set what my date is to accomplish that. This is where my marketing consulting plays a large role in what I do. A few years back, I had somebody come to me that worked for the DC Metro project. They were trying to expand the DC Metro out past Washington, DC, past the Dulles Airport into Loudoun County. After reviewing their marketing plan, we needed to come up with a way that we were going to get this approved by the planning board. This is a $6 billion project. This is not chump change for anybody, even for a big city. So what they did is they came to me and they said, you know, Christine, we need to get people to this planning meeting. So that was their goal. How do I get people to this planning meeting? And not only can we get people there, but we need them to speak in favor of the loud and rail. Okay, so I told you earlier that more people are afraid of public speaking than they are of their own death. And now I needed to find a way to get people to come to this meeting, stand up and speak in favor of something that was controversial, and they needed to get up in front of what we knew was going to be a good turnout. So we had set our strategy for this project. We set our tactic and we set our goal. And we knew that we needed to accomplish this in 5 weeks. All of our pieces were in place. Not only did 50 people come to that planning meeting, we had well over 100. We had so many people show up that planning meeting to speak in favor of the loud and rail, they had to bring in video cameras because they had to hear anybody, and it would have gone until 3 in the morning. In papers all across DC and the United States, the planning board attributed their decision to approve this project based on the overwhelming community outreach and community support at that particular meeting. So we had a goal, we put our strategy, found our tactics, and had our process. This is a very interesting place. How many of you have a mentor in your life? That's fantastic. We all need mentors. Sometimes we need a life mentor. Sometimes we need a goal mentor. When we are putting together your STP or your blueprint, it's good to have someone in your life who has maybe taken the same process. Just like I had my friend who was a health and wellness coach, that she coached me through the process of becoming a life coach. Mentors are really important because no matter how involved you are with your life coach, they cannot set your plan for you. A mentor will help you set this plan and create your blueprint. Write down on your piece of paper what maybe strategy, tactic, and process will help you accomplish your goal. I'm going to give you just a moment to formulate that. Once we have our strategy, tactics, and process in place, and from here on out, I'm going to try to refer to it as the blueprint because that seems to work better for me. We need to look at our habits. Bad habits and patterns stop us from accomplishing what we want to accomplish. Back to my fitness goal. I get up every morning, take a shower, drink my coffee, and out I go. If I would adjust my schedule to get up 15 minutes earlier, I could get on that treadmill, take a shower, and drink my coffee. That 15 minutes will help me set the stage. But I get in this habit of hitting that snooze. Even though tomorrow I know I'll get on that treadmill, I hit my snooze. So I have this cue that when my alarm goes off, I hit the button to get my extra 10 minutes. So I am in a habit, and that cue, when my alarm goes off, is to create a bad habit and ruin my strategy that I had in place, therefore lessening my reward. If you focus on results, you will never change. If you focus on change, you will get results. Even the smallest change in our daily routine can create new habits that will allow us to accomplish our goal and have a big impact. What habits are stopping you from accomplishing your goal? What we need to do is we need to recognize these cues or triggers that create a routine that give us a reward not quite fulfilling that we want. We need to find a new habit loop that when we have a clue, when we have our trigger or clue, we find a new routine so we could reap bigger rewards. This inner loop prevents us from getting our ultimate reward. Habits can only change temporarily unless you understand this trigger or this cue. And again, back to my fitness goal, that I know that that's my problem, and every day I put it 5 minutes earlier thinking, oh, if I hit it, I'll still have that 5 minutes. And every day I take advantage of the fact that I have 5 minutes. Now I look at my email in the morning. Never did that before my coffee. Now I get up, look at my email, then I take a shower. And I have to keep reminding myself that trigger needs to change. So when I get up, I don't go on my email, I go on my treadmill. Write down what you think is stopping you, a habit that you may have that's stopping you from achieving that goal. My parents had to revise their will this year, and they got in this habit of saying, well, when can you come over and help us? When can you come over and help us? And every time I went, we'd have lunch, we'd talk. All of a sudden, the kids are getting off the bus, and I'm out the door. Oh, well, you haven't been able to help us. I said, Mom, we have to change this habit. We can't eat lunch together anymore. So I changed that habit. I went over, and I prompted them right after breakfast, let's get working. We have to stop having breakfast or lunch together, because then we start talking. So we changed our habit. The next area is beliefs. There are two kinds of beliefs. There's explicit beliefs, which are external beliefs. This is who you are. These are the fundamental things that make you who you are. I am a life coach. I'm a marketing consultant. I am a mom. I'm a cheer coach. Lots of other things that I am. I'm a reader. These are things that I am. There's no question about it. Everybody would say, yep, that's who she is. But then there's implicit beliefs, which are more internal. These are thoughts about ourselves, who we are, and what we think about ourselves. These are much more damaging to moving forward in our life and directly affect what we think of ourselves. These shape our doubts. They also are very intrinsic in producing our guilt. If you're holding yourself, are you holding yourself back with self-limiting beliefs? If you do not have beliefs within yourself that align with your goal, no blueprint or change of habit or goal setting will ever help you accomplish your goals. Your beliefs need to align with what you want to accomplish, or you will never accomplish them. These are patterns or culminations of what others have told us about ourselves and what we believe about ourselves to be true. God gave us, and no other creature, a blessing and ability to choose the life that we want to live. We need to start believing that we can accomplish what we're set out to do, instead of believing we can't. What beliefs do you have about yourself that are getting in your way? Write down one or two personal beliefs that you have about yourself that hinder you from accomplishing your goal. Remember, nobody is going to see this piece of paper, and this sometimes elicits a very emotional response because it starts stirring up within us deep-seated beliefs that we have about ourselves. When we look at our pyramid, great, we have goals. Now we have a process or a blueprint. I'm going to change my habits, and I know what's creating bad habits. I'm going to change my beliefs. We need to change our behavior to a win response, and we need to make those little changes in our thinking and behavior that make us a better believer in ourselves. We all have self-limiting beliefs. We all have things that prevent us from accomplishing our goals. We all have a way of saying, tomorrow I'll do better at that. Tomorrow I'll do better at that. Have you ever looked at somebody and thought to yourself, wow, they have accomplished so much? And you think to yourself, gee, how did they get so lucky? Who did they have in their lives that got them that far? How did they have that potential? Do you ever chalk it up to chance or luck? I've done that. I look at somebody and say, wow, they're really lucky. Perhaps they have internal beliefs that are not self-limiting. Perhaps that person believes more in themselves than you believe in them or you believe in yourself. Implicit beliefs need to coincide with our goals in order that we don't sabotage our goals and cause failure. Daily, you need to envision your goal, review your blueprint, and check and see if your habits are limiting you from moving forward. A few years ago, I became a cheerleading coach, and I had a lot of reasons not to be a cheerleading coach. A long list. I had never done competition cheer. I hadn't cheered since I was in high school. What am I going to do about my 3 other kids that are home if I'm spending all my time with my twins? How am I going to get all my work done? I had a list of beliefs that I could never be a coach. Our only goal, my first year that I accepted this endeavor was to maybe win a local competition. Let's just say we were more of the bad news bears on that cheer mat than anything else. We did not do well our first year. With a little bit of showing at a local competition, we had hoped that the next year, if we put our STP in place, that maybe we would do better. This past year, I had one of the girls, this was my third year, we did do better. The next year, we actually won one competition. I had a couple of girls come to me and they said, Coach Christine, I want to make it to nationals this year. This is Walt Disney World, ESPN, Super Bowl, Pop Warner Nationals. I'm thinking, okay, well, do you think we can? And the whole team said, I hope we can. I think we can. It would be great if we could. And I said, how many of you believe that you can actually make it? And not one of them actually believed it. And I said, well, you know what? After 3 years of getting to know you girls, I know that you can do it. I believe that I can give you the tools, but I can believe all that I want. And you're never going to make it to the national competition unless you believe you have what it takes to make it. So each practice, we changed a little bit of our habits and we changed our beliefs. They knew about the strategy, tactics, and process that we had in place because we had used it the year before to make it to win our first competition. But this year, we did earn national success because they believed in themselves. They won first at the local competition, first at the regional competition, and had a great showing at national competition. This was a major, major thing for these girls because I learned how to coach them. We had the same girls, we had the same talent. I had the same ability that I came in 3 years with all those self-limiting beliefs. But I learned to believe in these girls, and I learned how to get these girls to believe in themselves. Can this process work if you change your beliefs, create new habits, and set a blueprint? They can work for the Loudon Rail in Washington, D.C. They can work for my client who wanted a happier life, and they can work for these cheerleaders. But most of all, can they work for you? Do you believe that they can work for you and you can change your mindset to being a goal achiever instead of a goal setter? The most important thing and the final part of this pyramid is the big why. Why do we want to achieve our goals? Do you want to be more, see more, explore more? That's my favorite. I love to travel. Why do you want to achieve these goals? Knowing why is the key to achieving them. You need to know your big why so it all can come together and you know that you're serving a life on purpose. And then you will finally have coherence in your life. Write down maybe what is your big why for accomplishing the goal that you were talking about earlier. My big why, remember I mentioned earlier that people are puzzled when I said that I'm a life coach. My big why was to learn to empower people to stop living the life that they think they need to be living and empower them to be the person that God designed them to be, to help people and companies embrace their goals and help them achieve their ultimate purpose and full potential. My big why is to help others learn their big why. My purpose is to help people find their purpose. It's time to stop pretending that you're an average person. You've got big work to do. I have big work to do. Big goals reap big rewards. The purpose of wanting to achieve to understand the big why is so our journey stops looking like this and starts looking like this. Whether your goal is personal, professional, you can apply these strategies, and perhaps a coach can help you navigate your journey. So, are life coaches all quacks? I hope not. In my day, we didn't have life coaches. We just suffered. I love that. But today, you can have a coach in place. And I hope I explained a little bit the difference between a mentor and a coach. A mentor can help you set the plan, but they're not likely to help you through adaptive change in your life. They're not likely to be the person that's going to get to know you and understand what makes you click. I've heard the we've all heard this saying, oh, sometimes our sail gets floppy and we have to adjust our sail to catch the wind. But I want to urge you to think about for a moment, what if you're sailing in the wrong direction? What if adjusting your sail means changing the direction of your boat? This is what I did and why I ended up coming into consulting and ultimately a life coach. I was a pharmaceutical rep for 9 years for a big oncology company that was a biotech company, and I was very successful at sales. I can sell ice to anybody, and I hope I'm selling you on life coaching. But it was my niche. I got the job after college. I had worked at it for a while. I did really well. It came easy. People said, oh, what do you do? I'm like, it just clicks. But you know what? Money never impressed me. But people envied my job and they envied the money I was making. But none of it meant anything to me because I was not happy working for someone else and having that life-work balance teetering between two things. Because I wanted to volunteer with my kids, I wanted to volunteer at my church, I wanted to volunteer in my community. I wanted to have more flexible time so I could have more of an active life in my children's lives. So my big why, back when I was a pharmaceutical rep and I left my job, was to have a different life. Would my lifestyle change? Certainly it did. But the lack of money was given a bigger reward in the fact that I ultimately got my big why, and that was to be home with my children. So I would like you to take this information that we talked about today, and I think that you'll see that life coaching is an opportunity to take you from good to great. You may find that coaching is for you. You may find that you think you can do it on your own. Whatever you choose, I hope the blueprint that we talked about today, changing your habits and changing your beliefs and understanding your big why of achieving your goals, all becomes part of how you look at your goals and will help you achieve them. Keep in mind, if you do hire a life coach, not all coaches are created equal. We should all be designed and trained to help anyone at achieving your goals. But there's more than just that. It's a relationship, and you need to click with the person that you're working with. You should also know that it's not an infinite relationship. You should go in with a goal in mind. Once you achieve that goal, you move on. Maybe with your coach you'll establish a new goal and continue, yes. But when you go in with a goal in mind, a coach is supposed to be there to help you through adaptive change by being an active listener and keeping you on course. So if you don't feel like you're clicking, find someone else. Don't think that your coach needs to be geographically convenient, because a lot of coaches do Skype sessions, phone sessions, and actually very few meet with them in an office, except maybe once or twice to start setting goals. But I urge you, if you think that life coaching, there's lots of resources out there. We have a few life coaches in the room. I'm sure we'd all like to gear you towards somebody that may help you in achieving your goals. But I hope that this process that we've done today has given you a little bit of an insight of how a coach may help you. And I'm done talking. So if anybody has any questions, I would like to open up the floor if there's anything that I can answer for you. Wow, I answered everything. Go ahead.
What's the best way do you think to find a life coach? Do you Google it on the internet, or should you go relational?
The best way to find a life coach is to get a card from Dan and Mark and Christine. No, I'm only kidding. We could certainly help you. We're all life coaches and help people set their goals. No, the best way to find a life coach is, if you know somebody who has a life coach, you may want to visit that life coach. A lot of life coaches will give a free session to get to know each other, to see if you click. I have had clients come in and I know that I can't work with them, and I'm like, I have somebody who's great at that goal. Not everybody's going to click. The coach may not feel comfortable with the client may not feel comfortable with the coach. I had a situation where I had a client that I needed to disembark onto somebody else because I I felt like he was getting too personal with me. And that does happen because you're talking about you're sharing some real information about your life. You don't want that to become a dependent relationship. A coach is not your friend. But you can certainly use resources of other people. I'm sure we all know people that are, if you want somebody geographically located in your area. But I would just urge you, you may need to talk to 1 or 2 coaches or 3 to find out who works for you. My coach, it took me 3 people to find the coach, but now I've planted myself, and until I've reached my ultimate destination, she works well for me. And it's just the right click for me.
We hope you enjoyed this presentation provided by the Messiah College Business Alumni Association. We hope to see you at one of our future events. Visit us online at www.messiahbusiness.com for more information.